Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to JKS Tech Lab. Today, I want to mess around in Azure and just kind of show you some things you can do to set up your Azure lab. You really don't need this outside of, if you don't have a bunch of subscriptions and different things like that, probably not necessary, but I like to practice things just to get good with best practices. And plus, I just like to organize stuff. I love organizing things. So what I tend to do is when I'm messing around with Azure Labs, I'll build them up, but then I tear them down. Then when I want to try some new stuff, I'll build them up again. So you can see right now I have multiple subscriptions. Again, really don't need multiple subscriptions for a lab in Azure, but I like to keep things kind of siloed. So I have a subscription called Learning Azure, and I use that one for when I want to go through any of the Microsoft labs and deploy stuff there. Detection Lab, when I want to deploy Detection Lab and kind of mess around with, some of that stuff with the vulnerabilities and the logging and different things like that. I'll have my own dedicated subscription, kind of my own area for that. And then I have one called JKS Tech Lab, which is really just for me to just play around with different stuff. But what I also want to explore is setting up management groups. Because by default, if you go to management group, you'll see that there's a root management group, and that's just by default. Everybody has a management group. And what these allow you to do is set policies and different rules and things at a management group level, which is more beneficial if you're dealing with a lot of different subscriptions and resources and all that stuff. I only have 3 subscriptions. I really don't need it, but it's always fun to just know how to do it. So the first thing that I would want to do personally is change this name because that's just the default name. So let me show you something. If we click on this and we go and try to rename the group, let's name it let's try to name it that. We're going to get an error. And basically it's saying I don't have permission. Now, you may run into this and you're like, I'm the root user. How do I not have permission to change anything in my account? But, you know, it's the way Azure works. It's just you have to have specific roles and specific permissions to change things on different resources. So what you need to do is give yourself permission for this. So we want to go over here to where it says access control. And basically I want to say grant access to this resource. I want to add a role. So if we look at the role assignments, you can see that I'm only just a user access administrator. So I need to be a contributor to this resource. So I'm going to say add role assignment, and I'm going to search for management group. I need to be this one right here. So management group contributor, and I'm going to say next. Members, I'm going to select the member, and I only have one member, but if I had multiple members, I could add multiples, and I could say description if I want, but I'm gonna just go. I'm gonna say, yeah, we're good to go. And once it says it's added, now if we go back to the overview, and I'm on this resource group again. So let's try to change the name. And now we're good to go. Now I was able to change the name. So now let's say I want to, maybe I want a separate management group for learning Azure, and then I'll put these other 2 in their own groups. So let's just make a child management group. So I'm gonna say create a child group here, and let's call this one Azure Lab. Say that's my Azure Lab. And then I also want to do another one, and we'll just call this one JKS Tech Lab. And like I said, this is obviously I only have 3 subscriptions, so but I just like to mess around with all the different functions and features even if I don't need them. So it's just a really cool way to kind of understand how these things work. So we can see that Azure Lab one is there, and the other one will show up here shortly. But what I want to do is go over here and move this one. So just going to click on move, and it's going to allow me to move it to any of these other 2, but I want to move it to this one. So we'll move it there. And then these other two, it would be cool if you could just drag and drop them, but it's fine. These two, I want to move to my other one. So pretty straightforward stuff. Again, for somebody like me, I mean, my bookmarks are organized, my folder structures are ridiculous. Like I just like to organize stuff. So I was messing around with setting up a new lab, and I thought you might as well just turn it on and kind of show some of what you can do in here. So let's go here. And so now I have my root management group. So if I want to apply something, just organization, just all the way across everything, anything that I apply here will get applied to anything that's under it. So I can apply certain policies and restrictions and things here if I want it to be more widespread, but then I can also set up different policies and different restrictions and requirements at this level. And then if you want to go further, you can also do it at the subscription level. So maybe we'll do something around policies and different things like that later. But yeah, so now I have my root management group and I have two other child management groups. So this one, let's say I want to apply a budget specifically to my Azure lab, that's different than one from JKS Tech Lab because I'm going to be doing more experimenting there, or maybe I just want to apply a budget at the root level. You can do it, pretty much whichever way you want to do it. So let's actually go here. I might, let me see. I can't remember if I have one or not. Yeah, I already got one set up. So you can see I have a budget, JKS Tech budget at the main root level. So I have a budget of $50 per month, and then it's forecasted. So it's gonna send me a notification. Actually, let's just go into it so I can show you what it looks like. So once it reaches 50%, it's gonna send me a notification to my email address. So you can set up your budgets however you want. But let's say if I wanted to go in and specifically set a different budget here for learning Azure, let's say for this one, I want to create a new budget. So let's just go through and create one. And I'm gonna say this one is my Azure Lab budget. I'm gonna say monthly. When do I want it to end? Let's give it 2 years. And let's say I only want to spend going through Azure Labs, just in case I forget to turn something off or something. Let's say $10. So I'm gonna say the amount is $10. Let's do that, and let's do an alert. Say forecasted 75%. So if my Azure Lab gets to $7.50, I'm gonna have it email me at a specific email address. And I'm gonna say create. And now we have a budget specifically for this management group that's separate. That budget is separate from my root management group. So along with my root management group of $50, I have a budget set on my Azure Lab management group for $10. So if it gets to $7.50, I'm gonna get a notification that says, "Hey, you left something running in this Azure Lab. You might want to go handle that." So yeah, budgets are really cool, especially when you're just dealing with labs and messing around, and maybe sometimes you might forget to turn things off. Just go ahead and set yourself a budget and you're good to go. So yeah, just wanted to share that, man. Just some fun stuff. Like I said, for me, somebody that likes to organize things, even if I don't have the need to have all these management groups, I think it's still just fun. And then I can go in and make some more, but being able to keep my Azure or Microsoft labs kind of separate from my own just playing around and doing stuff. And I may even put this one in its own. Like I may change this and make this like another management group, like a SecOps management group, or whatever. You can do whatever you want and keep going. So hopefully you find that interesting, man. Just go in and play with Azure, man. It's really fun. Personally, the reason I wanted to kind of mess around with this is because, when you're messing with AWS, they kind of go the route of breaking things down into different accounts and different things like that, but it still kind of has that hierarchy. So I wanted to see kind of how Microsoft approaches things, and it seems like they approach things more from the the management group level, and then you got your management group and your subscriptions and your resources instead of having separate accounts kind of in there. Because you can have separate directories and all that stuff inside of Azure, but it seems like they kind of want you to manage things from using the management groups. And then it's just this is just a hierarchy: management group, subscription, and then you got resource groups inside your subscriptions and all that different stuff. So cool stuff. Like I said, just have fun with it, play around with it, set up those budgets so if you do start deploying stuff, you don't get charged crazy for it, man. But yeah, definitely go out there and have fun, man. I think it's really cool to just mess around with Azure. I personally prefer the Azure interface over the AWS interface, probably just because I don't know. Maybe I just like the look of it. Probably my background as a Windows server administrator or something like that. Maybe that could be it. But yeah, I dig it. So just have fun, play around with it, man. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed this. Until next time, I'll see y'all later. Peace.